What is going on, Washington fans? Welcome to Bleacher Report. I'm Josh Taylor, and on this stream, I'm here to talk about building the depth chart for the Washington Commanders, which can kind of seem like a Sudoku puzzle right now, trying to figure out where certain players can go. So I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm not really looking too much into OTA practices and stuff like that of where guys are playing. And Dan Quinn even said it himself, like, don't think too deep into where some of these guys are. Like, they have Emmanuel Forbes returning punts right now. They're just really testing out some of these players in other positions and seeing how they do in those positions. So I'm not really looking too much into that. This is me really just looking at the depth chart that's laid out so far on, some other websites and stuff like that, and just giving my thoughts of what I think could change and how things could really play out through training camp, but then also through the season. Maybe somebody jumps somebody else along the way. But this offseason, Washington had the biggest roster turnover out of any team in the NFL. So I think this is really important to look at to say, hey, we don't know really what to expect. We got a lot of new faces here, a lot of different people that can make an impact, whether they're a veteran, whether they're a rookie, or maybe even some of these undrafted free agents that could possibly get a roster spot. So I'm going to bring up Ourlads is the website that I always use for depth charts. And like I said, obviously right now it's not the exact depth chart. There's no official depth charts or anything like that. Still a long ways to go for that. But I think it's worth noting where they have certain players and seeing how things could possibly line up. So just take a look at it. Let me back this up just a little bit. Let's start with offense, because I think the defense is the more complicated part of the puzzle. Those are the pieces in the middle. The offense is kind of like the outside border pieces. Like, all right, let's start here to see if we can get a good frame going for this puzzle. Obviously, with wide receivers, it's a matter of how many wide receivers could Washington really keep throughout the season. I'm guessing 6 or 7, obviously. I think they might lean towards 7. It really just depends because they do. Cliff is going to want to do a lot of 2 tight end sets as well. But I could see them absolutely keeping 7 wide receivers on offense, because you do have some guys on defense that can play different positions. That kind of helps that out with their flexibility and just the number of roster spots taken up. So I'm going to go into this with 7 wide receivers. And obviously, Terry McLaurin is going to be one of them, Jahan Dotson, and then Luke McCaffrey. I think with those 2 guys, the last 2, Jahan Dotson and Luke McCaffrey, you have so much that you can do between switching guys in the slot and moving guys to the outside. Luke McCaffrey, a 6'2" wide receiver, played a lot of slot in college at Rice. Jahan Dotson played mostly outside at Penn State. He also returned some punts and kicks and stuff like that, so maybe they give him a chance at that this year as well. But he played some slot as well, but mostly in Washington. He's played outside, and he did a great job last year, and he said it many times. It just wasn't his year. It just didn't. The offense really didn't fit him. Just something was off last year. We saw, in my opinion, the real Jahan Dotson that rookie year where he broke out and said, like, look, guys, this is what I can do. Whether it's before the catch getting open or if you get the balls in my hand, I can do some crazy spins and break some tackles and make some guys miss across the middle of the field. So I think we have a lot of strong flexibility with those 2 guys. But what about after that? You have some question marks, and you have some guys that are from the former regime, the former staff, like Dax Milne, De'Ami Brown, Bryson Tremaine, Mitch Tinsley, Jamison Crowder, obviously, one of these veteran guys that we signed for 1 more year. I think Olamide Zaccheaus is an interesting one. I think he could make the roster. I'm not saying that he's guaranteed wide receiver 4. I think wide receiver 4 could be a number of guys if they keep Dax Milne. If they see what some good things out of Dax Milne, then maybe they decide, hey, this is a guy that can actually get deep and make an impact. Once again, did he really fit the offensive scheme? Who knows? But I think De'Ami Brown is one of these guys that possibly could be wide receiver 4, but it would not surprise me if Olamide Zaccheaus was wide receiver 4. He's been on the Falcons. He's been on the Eagles. And he's had some good moments. The only reason I really know Olamide Zaccheaus is living in Charlottesville, watching him play at UVA, UVA legend there. But I think you have this middle of who's going to step up at wide receiver. We talked about maybe they get another veteran, throughout the offseason, even after the draft, maybe they bring somebody in. They worked out some people. Damiere Byrd isn't listed on here. That's another guy that we signed. I could see him being wide receiver 4 as well. A guy who's a playmaker, shiftier guy, kind of can do some things. He was on the Falcons as well. Maybe he ends up being wide receiver 4, just one of these late signing guys. But somebody has to step up in that wide receiver 4, 5, 6, and 7 spot. In training camp, they've got to make some moves. They have to make a name for themselves. And now I will say, I think Olamide Zaccheaus makes the team. I think De'Ami Brown's one of those weird ones that we just have to wait and see what he does in training camp. I think Damiere Byrd makes the cut. I think Jamison Crowder makes it. And don't be surprised. I'm going to move it over some because I'm going to put some respect on his name. Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. If y'all watched my video talking about the undrafted free agents that can make an impact, Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, in my opinion, is one of those guys. 0 drops in college. He already made a crazy catch at OTAs, and the team posted it, that one-handed catch. Do not be surprised if he is this year's Mitch Tinsley. Shout out to my guy, Mitch Tinsley. I think that he could fight for another roster spot again this season. I really like his game. We saw him break out in that preseason game against the Browns, show what he could do. Maybe the regime now gives him more of an opportunity as well. I think him and Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint could be the 2 guys that surprise once again. Now, this is the most important one probably to a lot of people, and that's the offensive line. Getting Cornelius Lucas back, signing Nick Allegretti for left guard, Tyler Biadasz at center, Sam Cosmi right guard, and Andrew Wiley at right tackle is how it's listed right now. And to be honest with you, I think that is spot on. I think going into training camp, and I think going into preseason, and even into the season, I think this is absolutely how it could look. Now, a lot of people are going to hate it, but I said this many, many times. As bad as Andrew Wiley was last season, he definitely wasn't the worst part of the line. And it showed in the numbers. The most pressures, the most sacks given up came from that left guard and center position. It was bad. It was really bad. I know we were focused on Andrew Wiley, and he did give up some bad plays. Like I'm not saying that he was phenomenal by any means, but I'm just saying with a new regime, maybe Andrew Wiley can have a new life, like a lot of these players. Now, getting Cornelius Lucas back was big, absolutely big. But getting Nick Allegretti at the left guard position and getting Tyler Biadasz, 2 of these guys who are younger players who just were ready for a bigger role. I think, in my opinion, that was the most important part of free agency, is getting that left guard and center spot solidified for the offensive line, especially with a rookie quarterback. And this is still a question to a lot of people, is what is this offensive line even going to look like? And we do have some depth at left guard. We have Chris Paul and then my guy Mason Brooks. I would love to see what he's got, maybe put him in, see him in some preseason action, see him at training camp, see what he's got at left guard. I think he could even jump Chris Paul. But left tackle, Brandon Coleman, in my opinion, is the story to watch throughout the season. Because I'm not saying Cornelius Lucas is bad, but we haven't seen enough of Cornelius Lucas to say, yes, he is 1,000,000% a starting left tackle in this league. When he stepped in and started when he had to, when Leno missed that game, he actually had a really good game. So if we can get that almost every single game this season, I'll be ecstatic. But I think Brandon Coleman has all of the physical tools, and we've seen it, people talking about it, you see him at practice. He has all the physical tools it takes to be a starting left tackle in this league. And people I've talked to, former offensive linemen, offensive line coaches, stuff like that, say, we really like Brandon Coleman. There's just a few technique things that he has to get down. Absolutely worst case, he can start at left guard for you, but best case scenario, he can start at left tackle for the future for you. And you got him at a really good value in the draft as well. Let's see. Let's get to some comments here real quick. Juiceman DJ says, looking to see Samerstill this year. And I think that makes a huge difference to the defense as well. We'll talk about that. Armani Rogers is an interesting name that keeps coming up throughout the offseason. Does he even have a spot on this team coming up? Obviously had that injury, unfortunately, but we had high hopes for him. Hartman is going to make the roster. I agree with you. I think he does. And Redskins Mania says, I can't wait to see what they write to see the madness. It's been hard in the rain because there's new except like 5. It is a lot of unexpected. What can we expect out of this team? A lot of new rookies, a lot of new vets, a lot of unknown. It's kind of scary, but I'm trusting it. But I think going into the season, we'll have Lucas, Allegretti, Biadasz, Cosme and Wiley on the line. But once again, don't be surprised if something happens to where Brandon Coleman looks ready and he starts, or, if Cornelius Lucas just isn't looking good or whatever it is. I think Brandon Coleman could absolutely be the starting left tackle of the future. And like I said, I think I actually like the depth that we have as well. I want to see what Braden Daniels can do. Once again, with a new regime, high hopes for him last year. Didn't really get to see much. I know he was injured. And then, like I said, Mason Brooks, I think he could jump to left guard too, honestly. Now, tight end, this is a fun one because we signed Zach Ertz. And a lot of people are like, I don't really know what to expect out of him production-wise. Then we draft my boy Ben Sinnott. Everyone knows I love Ben. And then we have John Bates coming back, Armani Rogers, and then Colt Turner. And then we also signed Colson Yankoff, undrafted free agent. Now, as I said not too long ago, at the beginning of this video, Cliff likes to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. And Ben Sinnott is a really good blocking tight end. Zach Ertz is a really good, well-rounded tight end, really good receiving. I think Ben Sinnott's really good receiving as well. John Bates, what can we expect out of him? But I think we can definitely expect a lot of 2 tight end sets in this offense, which is going to help out a lot because you're going to be able to disguise a lot of things. It's going to help, I don't want to say Band-Aid the offensive line, but it's going to help assist the offensive line, whether it's edge rushers coming or if it's a blitzing linebacker, whatever it is. Having 2 tight ends on the line really does help. Obviously, they don't always have to both be in line. One can be in line, one can be lined up out in the slot like in the Y. But I think Zach Ertz is tight end 1. I think Zach Ertz is actually going to surprise a lot of people this year as well. And then I think Ben Sinnott's going to have a bigger impact than a lot of people realize. And people are really high on Ben. I'm not saying people aren't expecting a big year out of Ben. I think a lot of people are. But like I think it's going to be like Zach Ertz, Ben Sinnott, like playing time. And then I think as the season goes on, it's going to really even out. I think they can complement each other really well. And I think Zach Ertz is a really good tight end for Ben Sinnott to really learn from it and grow his game into. But I think for depth chart's sake, Zach Ertz is 1. And I'll even say 1A. And then I'll say Ben Sinnott will eventually be 1B as preseason goes on, as the season really starts to progress. I think you'll see Ben Sinnott grow throughout the season. Now, what does that mean for the rest of these guys? I think Armani Rogers is the more athletic one out of all of them. But Colt Turner also looks huge in practice. He cut his hair. Dude hit the gym. He looks yoked. Colt Turner's always been that big-time receiving threat. Had the most touchdowns his final year in college at Nevada. Absolutely killed it. Great hands. So it would not surprise me if those 2 guys made the team. Like Bates, I just don't know about Bates, man. It's tough. Like I've seen some like decent plays by him. I've seen some bad plays by him. It's just when it comes down to offensive scheme, I think Armani Rogers and Colt Turner could say like, hey, we could have more of an impact based off of what you want to do. And then in my opinion, this is one of the more obvious ones. But as someone commented earlier, they think Sam Hartman's going to make the roster. I think he does as well. I think obviously Jaden Daniels is QB1. I don't think there is a point at all in the season where Marcus Mariota is starting because Jaden Daniels isn't ready or it's too soon. Nothing like that. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be quarterback 1. Obviously, he's got to compete. He's still got to compete. But I think Jaden Daniels is going to look great in camp. I think preseason is going to look good. And then boom, week 1, he's going to be the starter. I don't see it being like, oh, Marcus Mariota is starting week 1. I don't see that the case at all. I do think Mariota is going to be quarterback 2. And I think that Jake Fromm's already gone. But I think Sam Hartman ends up being quarterback 3. Would not surprise me at all. That's my prediction. And then running backs. Obviously, my guy Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. I think this is another case of the 1A and 1B. I think people are sleeping on Austin Eckler. He's healthy. He really didn't fit, the Charger scheme last year. When I talked to him, he's like, I just didn't fit. I needed to go. I needed to go somewhere that really wanted me, that I know I can make an impact. He's back with Anthony Lynn, his running back coach. It was his head coach with the Chargers at some point. Now it's running back coach. And he just feels like I can be a big-time player in this offense. And I think he absolutely can be. And then you have Brian Robinson Jr., who's still underrated by the league, in my opinion. Super underrated. He showed us last year something I've never seen before, and this is coming from an Alabama fan that watched him for 4 years. He didn't really do much at Alabama until his last year. But he made some big-time catches and plays after the catch last year in the offense. I was like, holy smokes, who is this Brian Robinson? Like he's progressed and he's grown in the NFL, and he's still going to run you over. So I think Austin Ekeler has this dynamic, shifty, elusive style to his game, and he's still going to run you over. Like Austin's jacked. He's over there lifting 200-pound dumbbells in the gym. I didn't even know those existed. And then you have Brian Robinson Jr., who can do the same thing, but more of that workhorse, that power back. But then what can happen after that? I like Chris Rodriguez. I really want to see what they can get out of him. But they did sign some really interesting undrafted free agent running backs with Austin Jones, who played at USC, and then Michael Wiley from Arizona. I like Wiley's game. The more I watch, I think Wiley is one of those guys that could really make an impact in training camp and make some big plays in preseason. And we're going to come back to this video and be like, man, Josh is right. Like Michael Wiley is one of those like third down backs that people really like the JD McKissick kind of style. I think Michael Wiley, in my opinion, could be one of those guys that makes some plays and possibly gets the running back 3 spot. If not running back 4 for sure, in my opinion. I think Wiley would get that nod. I like his game a lot. He was at the Senior Bowl. But just going back and watching the tape, they had a really good running back room. Arizona had a really good offense last year. But he had some juice to his game that I think was definitely worth signing and could make some big time plays. Evo8 says Diame needs to go. Preseason hero, and that's all. And then said pumped. Hope we can get Chris Thompson production from Chris Ekeler. Honestly, not a bad comp, but even like just look at Austin Ekeler's production besides last year when they had a completely new change on the team, and he just said things didn't fit. Like look what he did. He had the most touchdowns since he's entered the league before last year. Out of any position, he had the most touchdowns. He's just a touchdown scoring machine. So in my opinion, I think it's crazy that people are undervaluing what Austin Ekeler could bring to this team. When we sign him, people are like, oh, I don't know. Like, no, you should be excited about this. You should definitely be excited. Now let's take a look at the defensive line, because this is a juicy one. Obviously, we sign Dorrance Armstrong to play D end, but then also have Efe Obada coming back. We have Dante Fowler Jr., who came over from Dallas as well. Another one of Dan Quinn's guys and Coach Witt. And then in the middle, we have Deron Payne, John Allen, and then behind them, we have Fedarian Mathis, Jerzon Newton, new draft pick, John Ridgeway. Got some depth there as well. And then on the side of the line, it's like who could possibly be that guy? Clelin Ferrell, KJ Henry, Andre Jones Jr. If y'all remember, I really liked Andre Jones Jr. last year, like in preseason and training camp, impressed the heck out of me. And same with KJ Henry. I think he did some good things as well when he got his shot. But what do they look like with real coaching? Just like every position, what do these guys look like with a new coaching staff, with a new fire, with a new passion? I think we're going to see the best of Deron Payne, the best of John Allen. And Dorrance Armstrong was a guy in Dallas who would rotate in, wasn't a 3-down guy, and then said, like, look, he's ready for more. But he had a ton of production. He was very effective in that defense. He said, I'm following my guy, Dan Quinn. I'm following Coach Witt to Washington. I know I can succeed in that defense. I want to be in that defense. That's big. Super young still, just getting better every single year. Can he be that 3-down guy this year? I think so. I think he definitely can. Will they use him as that? I think you will see some rotational packages. I think you'll see some Dante Fowler in there. I think you'll see some Efe Obada, like when he's 100% healthy, if he's not already, from his injury last year. And then on the other side, I think Clelin Ferrell could start. It would not surprise me if Clelin Ferrell started, and then you saw some rotations with KJ Henry, Andre Jones Jr., just some fresh legs in there. Especially on third down, you might see some 5-2. You might see some NASCAR packages. You could see in the middle of the line on a 5-2, you could see a Dron Payne, a John Allen, a Fedarian Mathis, or you could rotate Mathis with Newton once he's healthy and ready to go. I think with his foot injury, I think he could be ready to go by season start. I think it's kind of cutting close. Depends on how everything goes, obviously. But a defensive line with Dron Payne, John Allen, and Jerzon Newton, who can actually play, outside the guard, maybe even outside the tackle, or at least over the tackle or inside the tackle on the line. Jerzon Newton, John Allen, and Dron Payne. And this is something people complained about. There are a lot of different things you can do with those three guys once Newton gets healthy. I'm telling y'all, Newton was one of the most dominant defensive players in all of college football in the last 2 seasons. Not even just last year, but even the year before that. I'm talking Alabama, Michigan, you name it, Ohio State, Texas, doesn't matter, Georgia. Jerzon Newton at Illinois was one of the most dominant players I've seen in the last 2 years in college football, especially from an interior to sometimes outside, defensive lineman. Jerzon Newton was a beast. He would take games over. I remember I was at the Penn State game, and he straight up dominated that game. I was like, who is this dude? Who is this guy? And I was like, I'm going to watch him this next year for sure. So the fact that Washington got him where he was, I'm not really worried about the injury. I think he's going to be fine. He just had it happen to both feet. It is what it is. It's nothing to freak out about. You get him at a really good price, and he's another really young guy that is the future of this defense. So don't be surprised. Depth chart-wise, you might see him behind John Allen. You might see him right there with Mathis. You might see him right there with Ridgeway. But there's a lot of different opportunities to where all three of those guys, Payne, Allen, and Newton, can be on the line at the same time. But I don't think the depth chart for the defensive line is as important as some of these other positions, because I think you will see a lot of these rotational guys with Fowler, KJ Henry, Andre Jones, Obata, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, another one of these draft picks that we had. Now this is where it gets interesting. The from linebacker back to the secondary. I'm gonna leave it right here. They have Jamin Davis, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Lavu. I don't know. I'm not sleeping on Jamin Davis. I think Quinn can get the best out of Jamin Davis, and I hope he does. We don't pick up his 5th-year option. Having Bobby Wagner and Frankie Lavu, just even reading that on the screen, gives me goosebumps. I can't even believe that that's our linebacker group. Frankie Lavu, one of the big time underrated, up and coming young linebackers in this league. In my opinion, he's a top 5 linebacker in this league, in my opinion. And then you have Bobby Wagner, probably for a year, but still, he wanted to come back here and team up with him, team up with Coach Norton again, with Dan Quinn and Norton. And he said, look, me and Quinn tried to make it happen plenty of times. He tried to go to Dallas. Dallas fumbled the bag. They didn't let it happen. And that could have been a huge mistake by Dallas. But we didn't make that mistake. We said we want Bobby Wagner. So I think when it comes to depth chart-wise, what you can see on the field, we've seen Jamin Davis do some pass rushing drills and so far in camp, like a outside guy. But then we've also heard, Quinn talk about it and say, we kind of want to see what he can do rushing the quarterback even before practice. Kind of we want to see Jamin Davis as that outside linebacker type of guy, which I think is great. I think when he is given the chance to rush the quarterback, he's effective at it. He's really good at finding those lanes, gap integrity, but also that burst to get to the line, get skinny, get in there. I think he has that. So I'm not counting out Jamin Davis. I'm not, there's a lot of Jamin Davis haters. I think he's a good dude. I've met him before, ran into him at the airport here in Austin. I was like, dude, what's up? And just talked to him. I think he's a good dude. I think he made a stupid mistake. Definitely not ruling that out. I think that was a dumb mistake. But I think, I think this is his year to just say, look, this is who I am. Fans might hate me. People might doubt me. But I think Jamin Davis is look, this is my year. This is my year. Now that I have real coaching, I have a real opportunity to really show myself in a scheme that I can put in a position to succeed. But Bobby Wagner and Franklin Lavue are going to be on the field the most. Now, with that being said, looking over Jamin Davis's shoulder is Jordan McGee, rookie out of Temple, who is a beast. I think Jordan McGee is a guy that could take over for Bobby Wagner next year. So Bobby Wagner retires. He's done whatever. This whole season, he's coaching up Jordan McGee. And then same with Anthony Pittman. Anthony Pittman, another younger guy, depth guy for the Lions coming here. I think his game could evolve some as well. Mykal Walker from the Steelers. But I'm looking at Jordan McGee as a high ceiling player. The athleticism is there. The size is there. And I think the talent is there as well. Smaller school, Temple. Not a lot of people watching the Temple. But you watch the tape, this guy's just exploding off the screen. Whether it's stopping the run, whether it's in coverage, getting to the quarterback. He did it all. This guy is just like a heat-seeking missile across the middle of the field. I think Bobby Wagner can transform Jordan McGee. And obviously Jordan McGee's got to put the work in too. But learning from Bobby Wagner, I think Jordan McGee is a starting linebacker for this team next year. But I think this year, I think you'll still see him a good bit. I think you'll see some rotations. So if Jamin Davis is struggling or you see some, weakness in Jamin Davis, don't be surprised if Jordan McGee makes that jump right here. Jordan McGee might just boom at some point in this season. So there's a couple guys that I'm looking at, a couple different positions, and I'll talk about another one here in a minute, where guys could jump the person in front of them at some point in the season. And I think Jordan McGee is one of the more likely ones if Jamin Davis struggles. I hope he doesn't. I hope he plays well. I hope everyone plays well because that means the team's playing well. But Jordan McGee, keep an eye out on him. Big-time playmaker in the making. Now, this is the Sudoku puzzle on the expert level. What's the secondary going to look like? Like you're looking at all the blocks. I love Sudokus, by the way. You're looking at all the blocks and seeing what numbers can go where. You're like, all right, one there. We got somebody in the slot here. This guy could play corner, so I'm not going to put him there. This guy could be a safety. What the heck is the secondary going to look like? And I know it is early, but this is still, in my opinion, one of the more important spots of this whole depth chart because we saw how much this team struggled last year with explosive plays. We did make a lot of changes in the secondary, but then we kind of didn't at other points. So at corner, they have Benjamin St-Juste, and then veteran Michael Davis, who we signed from the Chargers, starting on the other side. I think that's interesting. Just put a pin in that one. And then at nickel, Mikey Sainristil, rookie from Michigan. They got Quan Martin behind him. And then at free safety, they have Derek Forrest. Strong safety, they have Jeremy Chin. So, Josh, what do you think is actually going to happen with this depth chart? In my honest opinion, I think St-Juste starts at corner. I think Quinn and Coach Witt are going to like the physical aspect of Ben St-Juste, that man coverage ability that we've seen him play well in. But they just have to clean up a couple things. The grabby, being too aggressive, the penalties that come with it. I think Ben St-Juste has enough in his game to where they're like, we can work with this guy. We've seen some good out of his game. Now, the other side. Michael Davis over Emmanuel Forbes. Is that a real possibility? Well, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes for one reason. One, because Michael Davis is a proven veteran in this league. Is he, 5-star corner? Is he an all-pro? No, I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, can he get the job done without giving up big plays? Yes. He's made some big plays. He's made some nice interceptions in his career. Man coverage guy once again. Dan Quinn has his corners that he likes. You've seen that throughout the whole free agency period of him taking guys that he really likes, even like James Pierre from the Steelers. But I think there's a real possibility that Michael Davis could start over Forbes at first. So what does Forbes look like in practice? I think it's a case of Forbes just showing who he is. I don't want to say, oh, he has to earn his spot. I don't want to say that. I don't think that's right. Yes, obviously he has to compete. I think everyone has to earn their spot. But I don't think it's a matter of, oh, you looked so bad last year, Forbes, that we have to make sure like you actually look better. They're going to start Michael Davis if they have to until they see enough out of Forbes. Like, all right, this guy's ready to go. This is the Forbes that we knew we could get. This is that 16th overall pick. I don't care about his size. Just show up on the field. Get those interceptions, which Dan Quinn once again showed that he can do that with Deron Bland. He showed he can do that with Trayvon Diggs. Forbes showed in college, and he showed last year too. He had some interceptions. He did drop some big ones as well. But he showed, like, I have the blueprint to be a good corner in this league. He just was set up in a terrible position last year. You have Del Rio as coordinator, and then he gets fired, and then Ron's like, oh, I'll take over. Then they're benching him. Then they're bringing him in against A.J. Brown. Like, nothing about Emmanuel Forbes made sense last year. How they used him, like when they used him and what they did with him and benching him and starting him against A.J. Brown. And just, they didn't handle anything the correct way. So, unlike other fans, I have grace for Emmanuel Forbes. I have grace. Because I think he can be good. I think he can be good. But I think they sign Michael Davis. Noah Igbinoghene out of Dallas. He was in Miami before that. Another guy that Dan Quinn knows, like, hey, worst case, I got someone I trust for a little bit. Then you have Christian Holmes, another physical man guy. Also, Quan Martin can play some corner too. And then one last little asterisk is Stephon Gilmore is still out there. So if practice looked bad, they're just like, we can't go into week one with this. Let's go get Stephon Gilmore. He's still out there. He still wants to play. He puts out like videos and stuff all the time. He's ready to go. Like, it might be like, he just needs to be signed. You sign him, then you have St. Juste, you have him, and he could help coach up Forbes. Forbes has been working, working a lot this offseason. I said he reached out and got some help, throughout the season last year and even this offseason. Especially with, Darryl Green saying, like, look, I'm going to work with them. That's big. Having a guy on the field that can help him out as well. Like, is that guy there right now? Maybe Michael Davis. But I think having Stephon Gilmore, like, I would not rule that out at all. I would not rule out a late signing of Stephon Gilmore, like, as training camp is going on, bringing him in and just kind of, transitioning him onto the team to be the starting corner if things don't look good. But then worst case, like, maybe Forbes looks ready week 3, week 4, whatever it is, and he can take over. But at the safety spot, Derek Forrest, we've been quiet on him because he was hurt, really wasn't talked about much. I think Jeremy Chinn starts at strong safety. I think he's going to rotate. I don't think he's just going to stay at strong safety. He's too good to just stay at strong safety. I'm really high on Jeremy Chinn. I think you can see him move at some linebacker. You're going to see some big packages, whether it's big dime, big nickel. You're going to see him playing in the box. You're going to see him playing in that like linebacker-esque role. You can see him, dropping back in coverage. You can see him rushing the quarterback. You're going to see everything out of Jeremy Chinn. They're gonna throw everything at you with Jeremy Chinn. So I think strong safety, boom, he's our guy. Now I think Derek Forrest can play strong safety as well. We've seen it. But I think from a starting standpoint, I could see Derek Forrest being there. But Quan Martin, in my opinion, will play some free safety as well. So seeing Derek Forrest listed as the free safety on the depth chart, I'm putting a little asterisk. I'm like, okay, I don't disagree. I think he's a starting free safety on the depth chart. But don't be surprised when you see Quan Martin at free safety, Jeremy Chinn at strong safety, or Quan Martin at free safety, Derek Forrest at strong safety, and then Jeremy Chinn's down there in the box, whether it's like, cover 2 or Tampa 2 or something like that, and he's like the guy in the middle or the outside dropping into coverage, whatever it is. Those 3 guys give you a lot that you can work with, a lot of different disguises too, because you can blitz with Jeremy Chin. You can blitz with Quan Martin. You can drop them all back into coverage. You can stop the run with those guys. I feel confident in all of those guys. Now, who are the guys left out? Percy Butler? I don't know, man. I don't know about Percy Butler. Jeremy Reeves? Yes. Obviously got a spot. And then you have Dom Hampton. And then you have Tyler Owens. Gosh. One of them a draft pick. One of them the most athletic undrafted free agent that was in this whole class. Insane. Like, insane talent. Tyler Owens has range. So if you want a guy that can play single high safety, he's just still super raw. He just needs more reps. He needs more in-game experience. But a guy that can, in the future, play single high safety, that's your guy. Tyler Owens is your guy. He can cover sideline to sideline. He's going to lay you out. He's going to break up big plays. He's so fast. Dominique Hampton, in my opinion, is the guy that's going to take Percy Butler's spot. I think Dom Hampton is like our Cam Curl replacement. I see a lot of the same, similarities in talent and playing style in those two. So it does not surprise me as well. So I think the secondary really excites me. And I know a lot of people are stressed out about the corner spot. And I'm not saying like I'm not losing sleep at night over it, because sometimes I am. But the safety position, in my opinion, this year is the best it's looked in a long time. I have not been a fan over the last 2-3 years of how these safety, the groups have looked. Like, just so many big explosive plays over the top. So many explosive plays over the top. And now we have guys that we can rely on. I think Derek Forrest is going to make a jump. Like, we've seen him play extremely well. And then I think we're going to see Jeremy Chin, if he stays healthy, I'm confident. We're going to see Quan Martin start to break out even more, get some more of those big-time interceptions. We're going to see Dom Hampton come in and make an impact, be one of those leaders on the field. And then Tyler Owens, in my opinion, has such a ceiling to him that excites me. I think he makes a squad. And I hate to say it, I didn't think I was going to talk about special teams. But real quick, Brandon McManus has some legal issues now. So don't be surprised when OTAs kick back up. What is it, next week? I don't think they have practice this week. But next week, we're going to be trying out kickers, in my opinion. I think you'll see 2 kickers. And if it's me, I'm getting that boy Bates from the Michigan Panthers in the UFL right now. Go get him. The Cowboys did it last year, signed the best kicker. I don't remember if he was in the XFL or the USFL. I forgot. But he was really good last year. Go do the same thing. Go get that boy Bates from the Michigan Panthers and have him kick in next week for us. But like, forget the rest of the season for the UFL. You're good. Just come sign here. But in my opinion, I don't see a way that they keep Brandon McManus. And shout out Doug Alicious joining in. Said, hey, Josh, it's been a while. Good to see you doing your thing. Good to be back, man. Life's been busy. Also said, I can see these safeties as a chess piece. They are versatile. Absolutely, man. It's going to be an exciting defense. But I hope y'all enjoy the stream. I'm just giving y'all a little bit of an insight of what to expect from this depth chart as training camp, starts to progress through right after OTAs. But then also like preseason and some guys that could jump some other players. I'm super excited about this team. I know there's a lot of unknown and people are super concerned about it, but I'm hyped, man. I think the coaching goes a long ways, and I think we'll see some players really rise to the occasion this season and look like an actual team. So I'm Josh Taylor, and I'll see y'all next time here on Bleach Report. Peace.